Welcome to the Family Dynasty podcast, where legacy meets leadership. I'm your host, Matt Dewing, family guide, business advisor, and believer in generational purpose. Our aim is to inspire and equip you to lead your family so that together you will experience compounding wealth in all 7 capitals through the generations. Each week we uncover timeless wisdom, cultural dynamics, and practical tools to help you lead with vision, live with intentionality, and build a flourishing family that multiplies in impact. Let's get to work. The dynasty starts now.
Switch.
Well, girls, thanks for being here for the Family Dynasty podcast. I'm looking forward to this discussion. This is a very special one for me as we're launching this podcast series, and we're get to let people know a little bit about the heart behind Family Dynasty as a consultancy and as a ministry, but also let people know a little bit about our family and who we are and where we come from and kind of the heart we have for what we're doing here. So I'll start by introducing each of you, and then maybe you can say a little bit more about yourselves. This is Elli. Elli is you're our third child of 8, and you have 2 older sisters, but you have graduated, your undergrad was from Liberty University in psychology, and then you also have a master's in art therapy. Mm-hmm. And your most important claim to fame is that besides being married to Trey, you're expecting our first granddaughter.
Yes.
In just another month or so. So we're thrilled. We're so happy, and thanks for joining us. Elli, anything else you want to let people know about yourself at this stage?
I think you pretty much covered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then Megan is our 5th child, our 4th daughter. We have 3 girls, and then a boy between you girls, but you've grown up close. And I think one of the reasons I want to do this and hopefully more conversations is because you guys feed off each other really well. You have grown up really tight, and it's just fun to watch the fun and laughter and just easy conversation between the 2 of you. Megan is going into her senior year at Grove City College, and let's see if I can remember your major, Megan. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Maybe innovation and design?
Design and innovation, yeah.
It's not that hard.
No.
But I was always trying to associate it. Like it's kind of marketing, it's kind of business, it's kind of graphic design, and you're in that space and loving it.
Yes.
You started in political science, and that lasted about 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah.
So I'm changing, and you have found something you love. Mm-hmm. And Grove City's been great for you. We're so happy you're there, and you love it. And so thanks for being around this summer, and we love having you in the home. Yeah. Well, let's dive into this conversation. So let's start with kind of the origin of when we're talking about family dynasty and these issues of legacy. Why us, right? How did we really embark on this journey? I think, and feel free to jump in at any point. I want to hear your perspective too. But it was always in the water, so to speak, growing up. It was always one of those things, having grown up on a multi-generational family farm, that in Pennsylvania, you can, if your farm has been in the family for over 100 years, you can register for the distinction of what's called a century farm. And so even when I was a little boy, we were a century farm, and that was a big deal. And we talked about how it was not only my dad's farm, but our grandpa lived right there with us, and it was his dad, my great-grandpa, who I never knew his farm, and it was his dad before him, it was his farm. And so we kind of had, the land was important, and that kind of legacy, and so seeing something that had been preserved was very important, to just kind of baked into who I was and my identity. And then, fast forward to just maybe 5 years ago, and honestly, I'd seen a lot of success in business, and when my business began to really take off was a point when we as a leadership team got really serious about identifying what our mission was. Why do we exist? We can do a lot of different things, but what is the main focus of why we exist as a business? And then defining our values and our strategy and these kind of things that once we became really clear on who we were and what we were about as a business, our health and our growth took off. And learning that and just being challenged continually to reprioritize, because many times as you guys were growing up and I was building a business, family's hard. And there was many times I found myself actually more comfortable at work than at home. Because at work, there's things I can control, there's a clear vision. At home, it's a lot of work, it's messy, and it's not always easy. Sometimes work was easier than home. But as I, continually would be convicted about that and reprioritize and say, just because it might be easier for this season doesn't make it better. And so there were these repeated seasons where I would say, I am giving my second best to my family and my best to work. I need to reprioritize. And anyway, as these kind of ebbs and flows went on, and hopefully, what you've experienced and what's happened is more and more of my attention, priority, energy has come to the family as a primary goal, in understanding that business really should be secondary. In that process, just realized these things that we've done for the business should be done for the family as well. As intentional as I've been with the business, I need to be at least that intentional with family. So we went with this one system who kind of had a system and a way to help families kind of think about mission, vision, values, all that. And if you remember, I engaged Grandma and Grandpa and your aunts and uncles, and we met once a month for a year or so, and we were having so much fun. We were telling old family stories, new family stories. They were great meetings, and we were in this process of creating our family vision, mission, values, all this. And then we were probably 80% done with that process, and then Mommy and I went to that marriage retreat out in Colorado, and there was a keynote speaker there, Sean Morris, and he was talking about Family Dynasty. And I don't know if you've heard me talk about this, but in that, I think he did 3 or 4 talks in the course of the weekend. And let me see if I can remember the test for truth, or kind of the way we go through accepting truth, is 3 stages. And if I have them right, first you vehemently oppose it, then you ridicule it, and then you finally accept it as if it's universally true. And it always has been. Well, in the course of that weekend, I went through all 3 stages. I'm like, dynasty? Who is this guy to talk about dynasty? And why are we at a Christian event talking about dynasty? This just is out of place and ridiculous. And then I'm in the course of it, he's really laying out a biblical worldview for how we in America tend to focus more on nuclear family, and nuclear family is great, but the biblical ideal of family is really a whole household that includes all living generations interconnected. Anyway, so the thing that struck me, the main thing that struck me in that, other than the biblical exegesis and understanding in a deeper way of what family was and how this dynastic reality is kind of built into the way God has expected families to go through life in the world, was that Sean has a deep conviction that I now share, that God has put within every family, every bloodline, a specific mandate or an area that they are called to rule or govern or exercise authority in the earth. And we had been on this creative process, and I realized, God has made us in His image. He's the creator, and He's made us to be creative. He wants us to create culture and be creative. And we were doing that. It was great. And if that was the system we would have finished with, we'd have had a good foundation to really go forward into the future. But to me, a light bulb went off and said, we are made to be creative, but more foundational than creativity is revelation. We don't create God in our image, right? He created us in His image, and we wouldn't know Him unless He revealed Himself to us. We only know the true God in the sense that He has revealed Himself to us. And I thought, wow, if there's a deeper foundation to understanding what our family really is put here on earth for, if it's true that we could look through history and look at the stories in a way that we could glean patterns and look for redemptive blessings that repeated themselves, and we could see what spheres of influence in the world did our family show up in, and how did we operate? it would give us a lot more confidence to say God has revealed through history what our family has done well and had success in. In that, codifying a vision statement based on that history and what we sense in the present reality as well is going to be so much more compelling and give us so much more confidence going into the future that we we dialed it back. We backed up and we engaged with Sean and Trudy, hired them to come in as consultants with our family. And it's done just that, right? It's given us this great confidence with the family mandate that we have. Now, I'm guessing neither of you want me to put you on the spot to let others know what our family mandate is. You got it memorized?
I don't know if I have it perfectly memorized.
Yeah. So we have these once a month family table meetings, and our family table, it's about 30 of us, and it's really grandma and grandpa, my parents, my 2 siblings, their wives and children. So there's about, all of us over 13 are part of the family table, and there's about 30 of us now. Right? And so we do start the meeting every week asking someone to recite it, but we're in process, right? We're all still memorizing. Let's see if I got it. All right. So as a doing, we exist to steward and protect that which is entrusted to us, be it peoples, resources, or lands. Being intentionally missional in kingdom purpose, in a spirit of humility, all to the glory of God. And so our 3 pillars, the 3 anchors, the 3 things that we come back to time and time again, especially as we look through our history, is as a family, we are protectors. We are not aggressors in society, but we will protect. And one of the things we latched onto, right, in the Middle Ages, we were known as ye watchdogs against evil. Right? And so we are not afraid to call out evil where it exists, and we are here to protect our family and protect our community and protect society from against evil forces. And then we steward and protect. We've been known through history to steward resources for other people and to do that well, to do that with integrity and to do that honorable. And then we've never been a flashy family. We're a family that's content to do hard work and do it, not in front of the camera, so to speak. So humility has marked our family, and we want to continue to do that. So that's a little bit about kind of our process in this, and then just seeing the richness of expanding it beyond just, listen, we got a big family, right? 8 kids. Mom and I, it would have been great if we would have embarked on this together. But the way I grew up and just how everybody gravitates to Grandma and Grandpa's house. All the first cousins, kind of their favorite people are Grandma and Grandpa. And they've done such an amazing job at kind of building this family culture where we all feel included, that it just felt right to pledge our wealth at their level and kind of put the first cousins on an even playing field. And what it does is it widens the net, too, for the capacity that we now have as a family for enterprise and leadership development and some of the things that we've envisioned.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about who we are as a family or
No, I think you covered it.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm just going to ask you, what did it feel like growing up in a home that emphasized legacy or even dynasty? How did it feel growing up in the home? And then we'll say, kind of how does it feel to you now?
I can start unless you want to.
No, you can.
There's probably a lot more than just this, but something that I think of is when we were growing up, I feel like there was a big focus on hard work and delayed gratification, which I feel goes with the idea of legacy, because when you're building a legacy, you're really working towards the future, towards what the generations are going to be having in the future from what you're doing now. And I feel like that was reflected in when we were young, even just day-to-day things, just us being encouraged to work hard, even if we wouldn't be reaping the benefits of that immediately, but instead a little bit later on. And I feel like that was instilled in us at a pretty young age.
That's great.
So that's part of what it felt like, I think.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Dad's saying, pay now, play later.
Yeah, yeah.
Pay now, play later. That's great. Yeah.
I said that the other day, and Trey genuinely was like, I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're going to hear it. Our kids are going to hear it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's great. What about for you?
For me,
Megan?
I don't think I realized, like when I was younger, how different it is to live this way compared to how most of the world lives. I don't even think I realized how like blessed we were to know our great-grandparents, because if you think about the majority of the world and how it's more of an individualistic culture and how people wouldn't even be able to name maybe half of their great-grandparents. But
Yeah.
kind of growing up and realizing how most people's families are made up, it just makes me appreciate it more now.
Yeah. That's right. You remember Max and Grace, don't
Yeah.
you? Right. Now in our family we have a Max and Grace, but there was my grandma and grandpa who were Max and Grace. That's neat. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. What is one formative memory from childhood about the family culture or values that we have? Do you have any formative memories? I mean, you shared one, Ellie, about just the hard work and I think I'm hearing kind of lack of entitlement. That was something Mommy and I have always been passionate about. Is we're gonna knock any sense of entitlement out of you little kids. And,
Yeah, mine's very similar to that. I was specifically thinking of like the wood bees for great grandma when we would go and chop wood, and just how the family comes together and works and kind of makes everything a celebration. I feel like that's not a lot, like that's not very common in people today, and just the way that we're able to make work fun.
yeah, that's one thing we've always done is I think growing up we had to work. There wasn't a lot of time for fun, so we did our best to make work fun, and we do that as a family. That's one of our values, right? Expressed one way or another, is that we enjoy working together and we celebrate it. You know?
Yeah, I have a similar one as well. And that was even when we were really young, helping with the maple syrup tapping trees. And even when we were kids, we were expected to do what we could to help, even if that was, so for maple syrup, like
Tapping trees for maple syrup, yeah.
Going around in the woods in the snow and using a hammer to tap plastic things in trees.
Right.
And it was cold, but it was fun, and we were learning from our grandparents, and I feel like they were just imparting their knowledge onto us as well as their value for hard work. And that was...
And we always had a big pot of soup to look forward to at lunch.
Yeah, yeah.
And Grandma's rolls.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Well, the heart of the mission of Family Dynasty, here is, I'm just going to read our mission statement of Family Dynasty. We exist as a consultancy to help families multiply their wealth, not just financially, but across the 7 capitals of wealth. We aim to equip families to live out their God-given kingdom mandate through the stewardship of relationships and resources. So since we mentioned the 7 capitals there in our mission statement, let's take a second and I'll just outline what those are. If we list them in the way we see them in priority, 1 to 7, the first priority is spiritual. And sometimes when I'm writing these down for people, I'll do it in a reverse order to show that spiritual is really the foundation for every other capital of wealth. So kind of like what can you not compromise if you want to have holistic wealth? And we believe foundationally, never compromise and always prioritize the spiritual wealth, the spiritual capital of the family. Second is health capital. Now we break that down into 4 subcategories of health: physical, emotional, mental, and environmental health. We kind of won't go into that right now. We'll do another podcast at some time where we do deep dive into all these 7. The third one is relational, right? So we build on top of our spiritual foundation and spiritual capital, our health capital, and then relational capital. When we think of capital, we generally think of finances, right? But we're trying to expand this idea of wealth and help people understand that, honestly, even if you don't have financial wealth, there are 4 other capitals that are more primary, that are more foundational to the flourishing of a family. And so don't, as you're taking inventory of the wealth of your family, don't overlook them. And when you're setting goals, set primary goals in spiritual health and relational capital. The fourth is intellectual. So our intellect is important. It's part of the capital that we have as a family, and as we have individually, and then combined as a family. And then above intellectual capital, now we have financial capital. And then the last two are social capital. What is our social network? Who are the people we know in society? Because that's a great wealth. And we don't recognize, you've heard the statement, it's not so much what you know, but it's who you know. And that social network can be it is. Whether you have a lack of it or whether you have a lot of it, it's a reflection of part of your capital. So that's your social capital. And then lastly, we think is kind of the tip of the spear, where this foundation is all culminating to build to, is what is your family's societal impact capital? Because this is the ultimate goal of every family. And you can have the most societal impact if you will build from a strong foundation of spiritual and health and relational up to intellectual and financial and social. Boom. How do we impact our society in the most amazing way we can? So with that brief overview of the 7 capitals, which of the 7 has impacted you most so far, and why?
I can go first for this one. I would probably say relationship, because, and also kind of the interplay between relationship and spiritual. I think probably because those are the 2 that I'd be like most familiar with since learning the 7 capitals. And I think the way that the relationships in our family and in my life has affected my spiritual, even though it like builds off of spiritual, but I think the way that those 2 kind of go back and forth has been really interesting for me.
That's awesome. Before you jump in there, I'll just react to that. Because one of my passions for our family and other families is this idea of young people as they're rising up in life is to really develop a healthy emotional quotient, emotional health, and to have this really healthy self-identity and be self-differentiated. Right, and you too often see this, right? And you'll appreciate this from the psychology degree, right? Is you'll see an individual that will either say, "My family is so hard and so miserable, I'm going to be completely independent and walk away from my family," right? And it's kind of the American ways: independence. I'm going to make it on my own. I need nobody else. The other thing, unfortunately, that's a dysfunction, right? Because God made family to give us our primary sense of identity. And if we, from our woundedness, go there instead of dealing with it, it is not going to be the healthiest life, to distance ourselves and disengage from family, no matter how hard it is. However, you see the opposite side of that pendulum in the most dysfunctional families of codependence. Right? They never find out who they are as an individual. They're always needy and completely reliant on the family. And that's just as unhealthy as declaring their complete independence. And so I'm passionate about, and I love the fact that you guys, I see you as having worked through that and continuing to work through that in healthy ways, right? You're choosing to be part of an interdependent network here that is the family, trying to raise you as resilient, independent kids who, if push came to shove, you can make it on your own. But why would you? Why would you, when the family is here to bless you, set you free, and welcome you back in, hopefully to the point where you recognize who you are, you recognize your boundaries as a person, but then come and offer who you are back to the family and not feel controlled, manipulated, or otherwise. And so that's just hearing you say that, Megan, excites me, because that relational component, that to me, that when you say relational, that's the picture. What I just expressed is a picture I get of a really healthy family network where people know who they are and they know where they belong. And one reason I want to do more and more podcasts with you guys is because I think I've seen you express this to one another, and you certainly do within family. You express your opinion. And some of these topics that we're going to talk about here as we do these podcasts, we'll have difference of opinions. And I love that. And I think that's a healthy family, that's a healthy unit, and maybe we can model that for other families as well, just to see. Yeah. So what about you, Elle? What is one of your favorite capitals?
Talking about them all, I definitely see how they have built upon each other. So I can see that a lot of them have impacted me a lot. I do really like the intellectual capital idea, and I feel that in our family, and probably in a lot of families, that's such a rich treasure trove because it doesn't have anything to do with your finances, but everyone has such different ways of thinking and skills they have and things they've learned, and you can share that wealth with each other by spending time and learning from each other, which I've definitely seen in our family. But I also love the potential that we have as our family grows for that to continue to grow with each person's different interests and knowledge.
That's great. It makes me think of, as you guys have all gone through Summit Ministries, their summer experience. And is it Kathy Koch that comes and teaches the 8 great smarts? Right? And I think that's one thing we've done as a family is really understand that everybody has intellect. It's going to show up in different ways in trying to tease that out, understand it, call it out, encourage it. You know, and I hope you guys have heard this enough that this is kind of like, yeah, Dad, here you go again. But I'll just say it again because over-communicating and repetition is a beautiful thing. Is that I've said to you all you guys, I think I pulled this from Zig Ziglar. Being educated to the master's degree level is not an option. Every one of you kids, if you don't want to be educated to the doctorate level, that's fine. But there should be no excuse why any of us are not educated to the master's degree level. Now, Elli has proof. You're the only one in the family, other than me, who has a master's degree. I don't care if anybody has a degree. I don't care if anybody in the family has a bachelor's degree. But there's no excuse for not being educated to that level, right? Yeah. Developing our intellect as lifelong learners is a passion of ours. And we do believe that sharpening the mind is an important thing. Yeah. Not just working harder, but working smarter.
Yeah.
Right? Good, I love it, Al. I love it. That's the one you're highlighting today.
Yeah. So kind of going back to like the purpose of Family Dynasty. So as a consultancy, how does Family Dynasty operate? Yeah,
so we are just on the cusp of some real maturing as a consultancy. Up to this point, primarily what we have done, we've done a conference, and we've done some home meetings with a few families at a time. We'll continue to do those, but primarily our engagements have been through word of mouth and with higher net worth individuals in a one-on-one consultancy. And we'll continue to do those, but our goal is to develop a network and to develop a community with different tiers of engagement that people can engage us so that we make this more affordable for families who are not yet at that high net worth level, but have a hunger and a vision to just kind of put in some of the disciplines and ideas that will lead them to becoming a dynastic, flourishing family. So we do this through, we have a book, the Family Dynasty book. We're going to be doing this podcast on a weekly basis. Again, we're going to be developing community and have different engagements that people can engage with the community for different levels of consulting and kind of masterminding. So that's how we are set up to operate. And of course, our big ticket one-on-one family engagement that we do is available in a do-it-yourself model through our website. And I think it's $800. So you can anyone can go on and for just $800, it's similar to what we did, right? When we bought this from somebody else before we really engaged Sean and Trudy on a one-on-one basis. We went in this other organization and we said, hey, we want your off-the-shelf product. That was really helpful. Well, we've done a similar kind of thing, and that people can just go and pay the $800. It gives the full 8-module family journey that we've outlined in it. And it's a year. I would say it's a year-long process of family discussions. It's just really thick and rich, and you can only go at the pace of family. It's the way I like to say it, right? You can't just call one family meeting and go through 8 modules, right? People will be glassy-eyed and be like, what are you talking about? It really is a process that I don't think can be done in less than 6 months thoroughly, and it's probably more like a 1 year to 18 months to 2 year process of really going deep with that material.
And you kind of maybe already touched on this, but what kind of person would find Family Dynasty services helpful?
Yeah. So what this is it's going. We think primarily enterprising families, but it doesn't have to be. It can be any family. It could be a single mother, a single dad. It could be anybody who just has a yearning to say, my family can be healthier in the future than it is today. My family can have more impact in society in the future than it does now. And whether it's just, I want a healthier family, I want a tighter family, I want a family that my kids are not just going to be my heirs, but I want them to be my allies, right? That's a mind shift to say, how can we go about life in a way that we're allies in some quest that we all have identified together, rather than, we come home, we share a meal together, and we kind of have a lot in common, but, they're waiting for mom and dad to croak to get the money. So anybody who can envision, because I went into this again, before I met Sean Trudy and heard this idea about dynasty, I had a very negative idea about dynasty. And when I see it's a biblical ideal, really what we're talking about is the good. Celebrate the good in family, call it out more, put systems around that will help it last into the future. So who's it for? It's really for anybody, and that's why we're developing different tiers of engagement, because we really do want to help anybody, not just the high net worth people who can afford us on a one-on-one consultancy.
Makes sense.
That being said, kind of our top tier that we're going to have an engagement that's one step less than the one-on-one deep dive process that we do, Family Dynasty launch. I think the avatar for that family, and it could be a matriarch or a patriarch, because many times it's the matriarch who catches the vision and drags the patriarch along until, we build trust and they see the power of it, and then the whole family's in. But it's often an enterprising family, a family who already has business interests, and they're on a quest to say, like my life was, giving so much of their life to the success of their business that they're giving their family the leftovers. And they have a deep desire to reverse that. And so it might be somebody who, right, has been part of C12 or Vistage, a CEO roundtable group. They've kind of been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Maybe they've also been part of a YPO, Young Professionals Organization. They've kind of done that whole thing, and it was good, but they're just yearning or longing for something more, a deeper connection with a bigger vision. That's the kind of person I think that this will appeal to. We also thought when we started, we thought it would appeal to those in their 60s who are retiring and really working hard on legacy structures and estate planning. And while we have some clients like that, and we certainly welcome those people, what we have found is that once people hit their 60s, they've already kind of have their set of advisors. And we've been finding a real hunger actually in young professionals, 30s, 40s, those who are hitting their stride and really hitting some success in business and beginning to think bigger. There's something bigger and more significant than just making money in business. And they don't have their set of advisors, kind of all decked out. So we've been finding a lot of hunger and resonance and impact with people in that category. And I'll tell you what else, and this is why I want you guys to be part of many of these discussions, is we're finding a resonance in young people, right? There are young people. We know this loneliness epidemic. We're going to do a whole podcast on this, that we're finding that when young people, their parents are catching this vision and they're saying, kids, no longer a bunch of independent lives. We have a family calling together. And when the kids say, oh my goodness, my family has purpose, therefore I have purpose, right? And I know more clearly where I belong and what I'm called out to do. And if you, I'm not going to recite our family mandate again, but its purpose, it's very specific in a way, but it's also very broad, right? So if Megan comes back from school and she says, Dad, I want to start a marketing agency. She doesn't say dad, she says family, right? At the family table. I want to start a marketing agency and I want the family in my corner. I want the family to finance this for me. I want a family to help me launch this marketing agency. Well, we're going to have a lot of questions for you, right? In what way are you going to steward? and protect resources. You know, how are you going to be a marketing agency and do it with humility? And how's this going to fit with our family mandate of stewarding resources and people, right? And if all that checks out, we're going to say, Megan, we're so glad you want to have a marketing agency. Of course, the family's behind you, right? So it's purposely broad, and that's so with enterprising families, it can help the rising generation know that they can follow their bent without necessarily having to be in one specific business. Of course, every family's going to skin that cat differently, but long answer to a short question. Thanks for asking it.
Yes.
What do you hope the Doing family looks like in 50 years? Certainly, you're going to be around in 50 years. I would have to break some records to be around in 50 years. I don't imagine I'll be there. But what do you hope it looks like? In 50 years, you're going to have grandkids.
Us?
I would think.
That's crazy.
Wouldn't you? For
I mean,
sure.
my
Oh, yeah.
daughter would be 50.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot how long
if
that
she
is.
doesn't have any kids then, she's not gonna.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you hope our family looks like 50 years from now? We kind of did. We had
We talked about this.
so we had a family council meeting. Elli serves on the family council, and so we do that once a month for an hour and a half. We had our meeting last night, and we did some visioneering, right? Not just the patriarch and the older generations setting the vision, but those of you who are younger on the family council. And our family council, just for people, is a family council is. It's basically the subset of the family that's tasked with business decisions and kind of making nuts and bolts decisions for the family. Anyway.
Yeah, so I feel like we had a head start to talk about that yesterday. Yeah. Some of the things that I see or my vision for the next 50 years is our family as a whole bringing connection and love to our community, instead of becoming insular and exclusive. That was a big one for me. And providing support to each other while also encouraging individual interests and passions and differences. And also growing success in the different businesses that we have going on. That was a big part of it as well.
That's great. I love it.
Yes.
What about you, Meg?
Yeah, one thing that I was thinking of, similar to what you mentioned, is like with our community being able to make a bigger impact, because I know we're just starting that with our family business a little bit, but in 50 years, there's so much more potential for growth in that and making this area a better community.
Yeah.
Because in 50 years, there'll be so many more of us.
Love it. Yeah, one of the things we talked about last night too, and that I'm really cluing into, with the church that we're part of and that I help provide some leadership for, synergy between the church and the family of really how do we enter the education space for our children, right? All 8 of you have been homeschooled, right? So certainly we as a family don't mandate what each of you are going to do with your own kids, but there is this rising crescendo amongst the young families of the church and here in our family for how do we prioritize some resources for helping one another with excellence in education. That is, classical education and robust Christian worldview. So those are some of the stirrings for me right now. What does it look like in family? In 50 years is that there is some kind of structure that is healthy in supporting the rising generation in a continual way for a really robust education. Yeah. I don't know what that looks like, but it's fun to envision it.
Yeah.
And what excites you most about potentially raising? No. Before we even get there, I want to ask kind of this candid question. What is something you've wrestled with or questioned about this vision? Because honestly, as we've kind of embraced this and realized, it's a walking away of the way most American families do life. And we recognize when we embarked on this journey, we recognized we had some elements already at work of this. But honestly, as we became more intentional, it showed how it has even been a stretch for us in some changes of the way we think and some of our habits, to the point where, quite candidly, I'll be candid at first, Mommy and I have had some real moments, right? There's been some moments Mommy has said, why are we doing this? Why can't we just have a normal life? And not to say that it's all that complicated, but it's just a little different in the way we're thinking. So your mother and I have had some moments that have been frustrating and challenging, that we keep coming back to, saying, this is good, this is best, this is really where we want to be putting our focus. But it's not all roses, is it? Yeah.
I would say for me, there's been two things. So initially, when this whole idea of Family Dynasty and working together as a family came up, it was a little bit hard for me to figure out how that would work with me also having like my own family. Me and my husband, like we have our own family identity in a certain way, and we have an independent and different thing going on. And how could those two things coexist without it being like we weren't like an unhealthy
Yeah.
like what you were saying earlier, codependency.
Right,
yes,
right.
thank you.
Right.
On the doing family without us being our own thing. So I think it's been a lot of learning and understanding that the goal here is not to like make everyone have the same identity or make everyone follow these like specific rules, but instead it's a community of support. And so I think there is that was a struggle at first, but I feel like we're figuring out, and I don't think that those two things can't coexist together. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And not to cut you off, I hope you want to say more, but the thought that it gives me is one thing I want to do as well as I can, and I'll just do it right now as a point, but I'm not sure I'm doing it the best, is to challenge and encourage everyone, have your own voice, right? It's a self-differentiation. You have a voice, and we want you to push back. We want you to negotiate. We want you to be an individual. The other thing that I always want to champion, for instance, Ian, the husband of your sister, and for David, the husband of your other sister, and for Trey, your husband, is to make sure they know, and that you know as their spouses, and that the whole family knows that with Elena and Ian, like in no way do we want to send the message that Ian's family is less important than our family, right? Elena is just as much a part of the Kirk household as she and Ian are part of the Doing household. And we celebrate all of that in the Kirk household, just as we, embrace Ian coming into our household, with no reservations. So it's not a controlling thing, and we just, I just want to make sure we continually express that we as you marry, you take on a new identity, and that's to be celebrated. Your husband's identity as well. But it's also, you are still very much part of this house and always welcome. So.
Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it goes with the pregnancy. Huh? Was there anything else you wanted to say about just some of the things that have been challenging or hard about this?
The only other thing I would say is the cultural view of the word dynasty. Whenever I've heard the idea of like a dynastic family, it's always been in a very negative light.
Yes.
And honestly, talking about families who probably should be talked about in a negative light, like nepotism and like power in not a good way.
Manipulation.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think just that, having that view from other people, even if I understand that's not what we mean by that word.
That's right.
Just other people having that view and us like openly saying like this is the dynastic view of family. That can be kind of hard because it's easily misunderstood, I think.
Well, that's why we're going to, so one thing we say is we kind of say, if you look at our website, it's prominent, we say, We want to help families move beyond a legacy mindset to a dynasty mindset, because we say legacy is great, it's very noble, it's wonderful. Legacy is what you deposit in and leave for future generations. That's awesome, right? If you're doing that, kudos, right? You don't get to a dynasty mindset, it's okay, it's great, right? This is not a salvation issue, this is a wisdom issue, right? We're just saying, if you're there and you're already doing that, maybe you haven't explored or understood what's the next step. And so we say dynasty is what you build with the generations together, for generations to come. And I struggled with this as well. And what Sean and I, as business partners, Sean Trudy and I, what we finally landed on was we want to be a little punchy, right? We don't like all the baggage that comes with the word dynasty. But you look historically, biblically, you look at the word and the language of it, it is the word for what we're trying to portray. It does have biblical roots. It is kind of, when done well and done without manipulation, it is kind of an ideal way to exist in the world as a family. So rather than dumb it down or try to have softer language, we're just like, let's punch people in the face with it. Let's have them get the reaction. And then kind of like the rainbow. I think of it as like, the rainbow has been co-opted in our society to mean, pride and all these other things. No, we have to still celebrate the rainbow. The rainbow is God's promise that there will never be a worldwide flood. This is what the rainbow is for. We should never be ashamed to have a rainbow. So I think about, I've kind of in my brain trying to get comfortable with the word dynasty. And I'll be honest with you, it still has a little cringe to me because of all my years of connotations that dynasty is something evil.
Yeah.
Cool. What about you, Meg?
I think my main concern is how to keep the passion for the family togetherness with the future generations. I think of it specifically in our family where there's grandma and grandpa, and then there's you, like clearly very passionate about all of this. But when you are gone and like the future generations are, whether it's wealth or just the things that come along with our family, if they kind of take it for granted, and how to continue the passion for the multi-generational living in the future generations that haven't necessarily been here for the kind of the formation of everything.
That's so a lot of people, this is a great objection that we come up with all the time, is people will say, well, listen, I know the facts, and the facts are shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations, right? Doesn't matter. It always disappears in 3 or 4 generations. So why should we even try? And then we say, wait a minute. There are plenty of examples of 10, 20, 30-year families of generational continuity. So for us to say it can't be done is giving up before we even try. That being said, it does take work. I think it takes a very specific strategy. One of the families we work with, their family documents date back to several centuries before Christ. And when we look at these documents, the way they're written out in a way that is almost identical to the process we take families through. So there's an example right there of how this dynastic family has stayed intact and multiplied their family wealth over centuries, over millennia, right? And it's because there's an intentional way to do it. There is a way that works, and a big part of it is.
Did that die?
Just stop
recording. Is having having these conversations, right, and having the family meetings every month, and just it's a valid concern, Megan, and it happens to many families who are as intentional as we are.
Sorry.
And no, it's good. Yeah, and when the driver goes off the scene, if they haven't, like if I'm the driver in this case, if we haven't raised up, other leaders within the family to continue to champion the vision, it will fall apart. So I think it's right to be concerned about it and to think about it. It's great.
Yeah.
I hadn't intended your reflections to become long monologues here, but thank you for bearing with me. What else?
It's good. That's pretty much
That's
it.
kind of it. Yeah. Is there a tradition or principle that you see at work in the Doing family that you particularly want to pass on in your family?
I definitely feel for me, I want to pass on being a hard worker, not taking things for granted, and kind of, I want my kid to be able to do things for herself and realize she has to do work. And I feel like that's a little bit harder and more rare in this culture with the way that kids are raised with so much technology, but that's a big thing I want to pass on.
Awesome. Very good. You, Meg?
Yeah, I second what Ellie says, but also just the way our family does things together, keeping the togetherness in there. I think especially like when Grandma and Grandpa are gone, I feel like everyone really, centers around them a lot. And I want to make sure our family still feels like that connectedness, even when it seems like the head people aren't here anymore.
Right. That's great. Wonderful. Yeah. So, thanks, girls. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this. Look forward to future conversations. I think the audience is going to be encouraged, edified. We're certainly not a perfect family, but we're in process. And by God's grace, there's just a lot of good things going on. And how about just as we wrap up, can you speak to your peers, speak to those who are in a rising generation within a family who are dealing with some of the, do I want to be part of this family unit? Do I want to bust out on my own? What would you say to your peers out there in regards to family life?
I would say a family can definitely have difficulties, but I think it's worth working through individual difficulties in families because it's such a built-in support network that you have and such an anchor that you have when there's so much unsurety in the world. If you can maintain some kind of healthy relationship with your family, that's something that you can always have and come back to no matter what else is going on.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like a lot of people in my age range, whether just going to college or in college right now, they feel like they really have to make a name for themselves, but everyone already has a name. Instead of trying to invent your own purpose, but inherit the purpose that your family already has.
Wow.
I like that.
Megan, you're the marketing girl. You worked on that line. I like it.
Not really.
I wrote down no notes.
Yeah, no notes.
That was good. That was really good. Well, just again to encourage anybody who's listening. It's not about perfection. It's about direction. And really it is setting a direction for your family, setting a vision. It starts with you and then with each family leader and then getting some buy-in from the family and having some discussions. What is our family about? What do we want to be? And having a shared, right? And this is where I think families go wrong too, is they think it's the leader's job to set the direction and the pace. Your family's going to revolt if you're the one setting every part of the vision and telling the family what they have to be. It's got to be, the leader should be leading, but it's got to be a shared vision. It's got to be something that is a compelling connection to people in the family. So just encourage you, wherever you are in this process with your family, I want to encourage you to take the next right step. And if you don't know what the next right step is, check out familydynasty.co. Our website, familydynasty.co. It's not .com. I don't even know where that takes you, but familydynasty.co, and you'll get some ideas, some practical help there, and reach out and if you have any questions. But closing thoughts. Anything else? This has been a wonderful conversation, and Megan and Ellie, thank you. We look forward to doing this again in the future. God bless.
Thanks for joining us on the Family Dynasty podcast, where legacy is built, not just inherited. If today's episode helped you lead your family with greater vision or purpose, share it with someone else who's building a legacy that lasts. And remember, you shall remember the Lord your God, For it is he who gives you the power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant. Deuteronomy 8:18. Keep building with faith, leading with love, and living for impact. Your family is your greatest calling.